Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this special webinar, Understanding Funders' Need. Can you please confirm that you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up or a chat message to tell me that you can hear me properly. Thank you, Nelly. So today we are doing the webinar Understanding Funder Needs, and we are happy to have a special guest today, Dr. Danaï Tavonga Zhou, who is going to share with us her experience and what she gathered toward her whole career journey. Dr. Danaï, are you here? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you.
Great. So Dr. Danaï is a postdoctoral senior lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe first, the Faculty of Medicine and Health Science. Yes, you can hear me here. And yes, so she has a bachelor degree with honors in applied biology, biochemistry, and a master's in science, clinical biochemistry from the University of Zimbabwe. And then she had a PhD from the University of Oslo in Norway. She's currently a postdoctoral fellow of the Sante program and the 2021 alumni of the African Research Excellence Fund, so-called RF, for the Research Development Fellowship Program. The RGF of the RF supported her 9-month placement at the Technical University of Munich in Germany, and she founded the Afrisearch Zimbabwe Gender and STEM Mentorship Program in 2020, through which she mentors fellow women in STEM, academia, and health research. So Dr. Zhou, we are very happy and delighted to have you here with us today. And we can't stop to thank you first for joining and to have agreed to accommodate your time for this event today. So over the floor to you.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Lunia, for inviting me. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for this session. I will start off by giving a short presentation. Then I'll open, and throughout the presentation, I'll open it up for you to contribute so that we share what we have experienced, because I'm going to share from my own experience. I've shared my presentation, Dr. Lunia. So in brief, while she's setting us up, I'm a Zimbabwean from Harare, the capital city. I lecture medical lab sciences students. So that's what I do on the day-to-day. But as you know, in low middle income countries, we end up doing everything, including teaching and research. So besides the teaching, I'm also a researcher.
Can you see my screen?
I can see the screen now.
Okay. The slide also?
Yes, I can see the slides. Yes.
Okay.
I'll have to ask you to progress them as I present.
Okay. Is it okay? Let me know.
Yes, thank you. So on the title page, I just showed what today is all about, understanding funders' needs. So the moment I had this, I had to ask myself specific questions about why I need to understand funders' needs. Next slide. So I thought about the learning outcomes for today. And I thought, besides why answering the question why we need to understand funders' needs, I may have to interrogate what the process involves of understanding funders' needs. I also thought about Africa-based applicants as a special group for today's talk. I also thought about grant intelligence, how to be strategic when it comes to getting grants. Then I thought of 2 assignments that I thought we could do as a take home after this or during this session. Understanding what a funder expects of you, whatever funder that you are targeting. you need to understand what that funder expects of you. So we can do this assignment after this this session. And then assignment 2, I would like us to reflect on the local administrative support, and I'll explain why. Then I'll end with a summary of my presentation. Next slide, please. In terms of the learning outcomes for this session, we should be able to apply our understanding of funders' needs or expectations of applicants to our own applications. We should be able to engage our support systems at the institution, that is the grant and administrative staff. Next slide, please. Why do we need to understand funders? As you can see on the slide, there are many different types of funders. We need to discover what they need from us so that we can learn how to tailor our proposals for success. This is because in order to be a successful researcher, you need to understand and regularly monitor the funding landscape. That is the funders themselves. You need to be looking at them, evaluating them, thinking about what they are thinking about as well. You need to be proactive and prepare for response to opportunities. Grant writing actually takes a lot of time and effort, so you just have to be strategic. So looking at all those funders, you may have to think, who exactly is my target funder? And then decide how to prepare in order to get a grant from them. So that's the reason why we need to understand the funders' needs. Next slide, please. The reason why we need to understand funders' needs is because these funders have certain criteria that they use as they consider awarding grants. They look at the enthusiasm or passion of the researcher. That is you, the grant writer. How passionate are you about research? It's not enough to say, I'm passionate about research in your own writing. They must see it by just looking at the things that you do, everything that makes you as an individual. The researcher, you as the researcher, should be a person who has received adequate training, adequate experience, adequate exposure, and you should also have networks that support you. The institution or the place where you are operating should buy into your vision. There should be mentors around you. There should be networks around you. There should be the infrastructure. Or if you don't have infrastructure, there should be plans for the transfer of the infrastructure or tools or skills. They also look at the research itself, the project. How competitive is it? Is it innovative? Is it feasible? What is its potential impact? They also look at the public engagement. Are you talking to other people? Are you publishing? Are you sharing your findings so that there will be impact? I like to call these the 5 Ps so that I can remember them. The passion, the person, the place, the project, the publications. You need to understand that funders are looking at you for this. So you must be ready to show them that you have all this. That is the reason why we need to understand funders' needs. Next slide, please. So you need to understand your funders in terms of how do I know what they need from me? The major research funders have some characteristics that they have, because they want you to know the needs, their needs. The funders want you to know what they need from you. So they regularly publish strategies, priorities on their websites. They have regular competitions for a variety of standard funding schemes. they issue calls for proposals to meet specific priorities, their specific priorities. They have routes by which you can seek further clarification or information. They use peer review to assess proposals. They require high standards of research integrity. So because the funder need you to produce results that have impact, they need to make you aware. So the way they make you aware is by sharing what their expectations are. Next slide, please. In order to understand the funders' needs, we need to know that funders are a bit like us. They are people, really. They have motives. They are a bit like people. They have motives. And they will show or share their motives in mission statements. They will share their priorities, share their research types and activities that they fund. So as you are writing your grant application, you need to respond to the funder in terms of their mission statement, their priorities, their research types and activities. You need to read what they are saying on their website and say it back to them. They need to hear it from you. For example, in the UK, they are national research councils, like the UKRI Medical Research Council. In the US, there is the National Institutes of Health, the NIH. There are also foundations, like the Wellcome Trust. If you read on their websites, you find that they are mainly interested in funding research that is curiosity-driven, discovery research, but they will fund a broad range of topics and disciplines, from pharmacy, mental health. They will fund biochemistry topics, clinical topics, because they think by you doing your research, you'll be able to produce answers that may answer some of the questions that they have as a body, or that the general population have. When they call for proposal, they will focus on specific priorities. Some will support research capacity building, e.g. PhD students and fellows. Some will provide grants for individuals. They will also provide grants for projects, for programs, for infrastructure, for travel, for collaboration, for networking. Some of these opportunities are not awarded to individual applicants, but programs to excellent research and training institutions. I wonder if anyone would like to share with us which grant or type of fund that they've received. Anybody who would like to share with us whether they've received any grant that sort of gives us examples under the ones that I've just shared with you. Please kindly just unmute and share with us the type of grant. Anyone? Anyone who has received any grant, any research fund that they would like to share with us?
I think they are shy. Let someone will want to.
Afternoon, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Celia from Zimbabwe, and I have received quite a number. So from the examples that you gave, I think the one I would like to mention is the Mawazo Fellowship, and this one is a grant that's given to Mawazo for capacity building. So I was a beneficiary doing my PhD. They support research in Africa. So they got the fund, the main fund, and then they opened applications for PhD students to apply. And then I applied and received that one. And they had cycles where they build capacity And they also have a sub grant that they award to the fellows. So you'd then apply, and it's competitive as well. So it had about 4 cycles that they posted in 15 months. And I received a grant in one of the cycles that they posted. Thank you.
All right, just to help those of us who are listening, thank you, Celia. You found that the Mawazo was focused on developing individuals. How did they support these individuals in order for them to meet their need? Their need was to support individuals, I take it, capacity building. So can you give us some activities that you did with Mawazo that showed you that that was their need and they were wanting to fulfill it?
Okay, so their mandate was to support African researchers, women, just women African researchers. So in their support, they had courses that we were supposed to complete within the 15 months for you to graduate. And these courses were live videos, and they were also posted on their website. So you had to, it was a stage by stage. So the first course is stage 1, for example. There's a pre-survey before you take the course, and then you take the course, and then there's a post-survey to gauge understanding of the topic that they offered. So there were many topics that were covered within the training program.
Thank you. So yeah, it just emphasizes that each funder will be different. So this one, their focus was on developing people. So they had a pre-course review and a post-course review. So when they are reporting to their own funder, because most funders have got, either they are funded by the public or they're funded by another funder, they have to report back. Anybody else who had something different from the type that Celia just described? Any other funding that we got? Do you want to share, Lunia, any funding that you got, a grant that you got that's a little different from what Celia described? Or I can take the floor.
And Nelly, do you want to unmute yourself and explain it? Nelly, someone is watching the chat, that's why I'm.
Okay, that's fine.
So
but
yes,
it's not I can give another different, slightly different type of funder. The Africa Research Excellence Fund is the one that I'm also familiar with. That funder is similar to Mawazo. They want to develop the African researcher. So they give you a grant and they allow you to identify a lab in Africa, in a different country, in the same country where you are, or Europe. So anywhere in Europe, you can go and learn, especially laboratory-based skills. So yeah, so that's the other type where they will send you somewhere to learn. But as you become senior, you may end up getting grants that allow you to work in your home country and even bring equipment, set up a team. So those ones would come from NIH, foundations like the Wellcome Trust. They will come in the hundreds of thousands to allow you to set up a grant, a research group. So with that grant, you can actually have a team, you can buy equipment. So that becomes a bit more competitive. That type of a grant becomes a bit more competitive, but they are just like us. Those funders will have motives as to why they want you to set up the research group. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So in terms of Africa-based applicants, there are a number of types of applicants. The first one would be the applicant who is the PI, who has come up with a research project. But unfortunately, when you do apply to highly competitive funders like the Wellcome Trust, like the RF, they normally expect you to have a collaborator with appropriate skills, with a robust research and financial management system who can work with you at an institution to support you, even though you are the principal investigator. Sometimes they'll give the funding to a national from the global north. When they cannot give funding to researchers in Africa, they would rather give the funding to someone, say, in Europe, in the US, and that person becomes your co-applicant in Africa. So that you need that co-applicant in Europe in order for you to get the money. And this they normally do if their policies in their countries will not allow them to give someone in Africa money directly. It is important, if you are a co-applicant, to make sure that you are not just providing specimens, you are not just providing lab hands, but you are also taking part in shaping the proposal, in shaping the project, so that at the end of it, you will have the experience of leadership. You can say, this is what I did with my collaborators. These are the research outputs that we got. Therefore, you can have credibility for the next opportunity. You can also, through these opportunities, end up with some kind of standing in the research world, so that you can use that as a launch pad for you to seek out better opportunities as now a leader or an effective leader. But the best way to become that effective leader is to behave as one. In other words, you need to seek out opportunities to step towards responsibility and to assume responsibility and to assume leading roles. How can you do this? Your funder would like you to be seen. Go to conferences, present your results, and mention the funder. So the funder needs you to take them to conferences, to meetings, so that people can know that there is a funder in the US, there's a funder in the UK, there's a funder in Africa. It is up to you to take them around the world. And as you do that, other funders now will be interested in you because they can see that you give them the mileage, you give them the visibility, if you like. Next slide, please. The funder needs you to look around and find them. You need to have what is called grant intelligence. The funders are there, they've got the money, but they need you to look for them. So you need to check on their websites, what are their interests. You need to sign up for online alerts. You can learn from senior colleagues at your institution, your mentors, from the wider networks like we are doing today. Hopefully somebody who didn't know much about the different funders may have one or two that they were not aware of that they can go and look for. You need to share information about funding with your colleagues like what we're doing today. If you do, they are more likely to share information with you. You need to be in regular contact with your institution's research management team or grants management team, because they are likely to have information about current grant calls. So I just want you to, when you go away, to think, how can you identify at least 2 funders relevant to you? And how can you then understand what each funder expects of you? Maybe we can just have one person just tell us from what we have discussed, how you think you can actually identify 2 funders relevant to you and how you can understand what each of these funders expects of you. Please feel free to unmute if you have something to say about grant intelligence. Grant intelligence just means we look we look around. Or from your own experience. Go ahead, please. From your own experience, how can you do this, what we are calling grant intelligence? Grant intelligence.
Do you mean looking for funder?
Yes,
or
yes.
By funder?
Yes.
Honestly, for me, when my first grant, how I found it, was I was following Recherche online, actually, on Twitter, formerly on X. I was following Recherche, and then they start sharing the grant again and again. I didn't even want to click on it, but because various researchers share it several times in less than 1 week, I say, oh, this is something I should maybe click on it to see what is inside. And then I found that it was something that I was eligible to apply. And I just did a collaborator at the University of Cambridge, because that was the Cambridge Africa Alborada scheme that you can only apply as an African-based collaborator, but with someone as from the University of Cambridge as collaborator. So that's, I look for a collaborator and I found the person, and then I won it later on. So that's how I proceed. I used to follow researcher, and then I follow also institution, then the funding agency that I already know, that I've already heard about them, and I start following them and see when they open the call. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so we can learn from each other even. Like on LinkedIn, I can, if I look at your profile, I may be stalking you because I want to see what grant you have received.
Yeah, exactly. Also, when you also look at the former awardee, and then you Google them, and then you see what they are winning, and then you say, okay, I have to open this other grant. What I also used to do is that I take the role model that I have, like Prof. Iruka or KK, all other role model that I know. I try to have access to their CV online somewhere, and when I found it, and then I look at what they won.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I think that's why they call it grant intelligence. It's like you are the CIS for grants.
Actually. So you need to have tactics. So that's what I'm doing. And then you also have to look the competition. So those who won before me, and then I Google them and see what they are doing, Google Scholar, Archive. And then I can see if they want something. I say, let me go and see if I'm eligible for that one also. So that's what I'm doing. And then I put the name always in a kind of list. The list is in my mind, but I have to put it now in paper somewhere. And then I know when they have to call, if it's randomly or if it's like they have a kind of round table that is standard, it's easy. Like for the big one, it used to be standard, but the small one, for some of them, you need to have the kind of time frame that you know that around this period, they will open the call.
Anybody else ways another way of doing this intelligence, grant intelligence, hunting or sniffing for grants?
Nelly has written in the chat, to find funder, I can check acknowledgement section on papers on the topic I'm working on. See who funded the study and then go to their page. That's also a great plan.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I'm learning some new stuff about how else to get grants. Because if you look at my list, some of the things that are coming up, I hadn't thought of. Yeah. So when I go on LinkedIn, I'm not only just looking for interest, but I'm also looking. And when I go, some of the funders will show who has won the grant before.
Yes.
So that would be a useful resource. You then stalk them and see. Yeah. Interesting. Next slide, please. So in terms of our institutions, sometimes they do have individuals or offices that can do our intelligence for us. But it won't be useful to us if we don't know. So your research institution, if it does have a person or an office, it is up to you now to know this office. It is up to you now to cultivate a relationship with these officers so that they can always tell you that there is a call. They can also help you by subscribing to your funding news agencies that are of interest to you, because some of these have to be paid. Which makes me think, do you yourself actually know if your local administrative has support for grant intelligence? Does your university or research institute actually do this for you and tell you or keep it for you so that when you want it, you can just write to them and say, is there any call out for cancer research at the moment, or whatever research you are interested in? Is there such at your institution? So that's our assignment too. Do we know if it does exist? I can start by telling you that at the University of Zimbabwe, there are several research support offices. But yeah, I think I agree with what they are saying here, that if you don't cultivate a relationship, information will come and go without you having that information. Someone, Nelly says, honestly, I don't know. If it doesn't exist, maybe it is up to us, the researchers, to start saying, we need this office, or we need this person. Anyone else, you may write in the chat box if you don't want to unmute. Anyone who can share about their own institution. Is there any grant intelligence office or a grants intelligence officer?
I think in developed country, it's common to have these offices, to have research offices. I think even in South Africa, we had some. We had a research office, and then they used to share call, like they used to share some kind of information mainly from local grants, mainly. And in some other developing countries, like in Cameroon, myself, I'm thinking like nearly if it exists somewhere, I'm also thinking. But in my research institution, it was not existing yet. In other university I was teaching, a private one, they were not even concerned about winning grants. So they were just concerned about taking money of students. So it was not yet necessity. They are so lagging behind that they don't think about having money from somewhere else coming to help them in the research or in the progress of the institution. So that's what I can say.
Do you think us as researchers, we can actually drive this? Is there any way that we can be the drivers of change for grant intelligence in our own settings, especially those operating from Africa?
That's an excellent question. It's an excellent point. And I think it's what we should do. If we have an issue and we don't advocate for it ourselves, like Nelly said, definitely no one is going to do that for us. So we should definitely advocate for it. And if we're not advocating, we should create this one ourselves. So establish it by kind of small way, like newsletter or small kind of information that will then be scaled at the whole institution or country, and then hire people from the university to continue it. But we should also be accountable for it ourselves. If you don't complain about it, then they don't need to do it. So everything is okay. So let it go like it. So I don't know what other people are thinking. Other people we have Bruno Lopez, Francine, Christelle, Celia, Catherine. We have a lot of people coming from everywhere. Taona, Vanessa. Do you want to share something with us? They're looking at the question phase, maybe.
So I'll share a small little story about what we did in Zimbabwe. we had a fund that we got from the embassy of the United States, and we started a mentorship project. When the fund went away, we had sort of very little money, but at least we had a group. So the first that we started by sharing research calls from all over in a Facebook group. Eventually, some people started to say, Facebook is a bit difficult for us to reach when we are far away from our offices. Can you not create a group, a WhatsApp group? So we do now have a WhatsApp group with over 700 people in which people can just share calls. So it's a small start, sharing grant intelligence. But I think what we need to do now is to see how the different people from different universities in Zimbabwe can get their universities involved in this grant intelligence, so that it's not sort of like, at the moment for us, it's not institutionalized. It's just individuals who have done it. So our universities don't even know this. So yeah, you can start somewhere. And then I think I got this from Dr. Lunia, that you can then pass it on to the university to say, what can you do with this little project? Chris?
Yes, Christelle. Christelle.
Yeah, greetings, everyone.
Greetings.
Thank you for giving me the floor. So I just want to take on what Dr. Danaï just mentioned. So I'm an alumni of the OWST, which maybe many of us know. So it's the Organization for Women in Science from the developing countries. And so I remember about 8 years ago, I met with other fellows from Cameroon, and that's how we decided to launch the Cameroon National Chapter.
Okay.
And from there, we created different WhatsApp groups. So we have one at the national level, and then we are trying to have different representations at university level throughout the country. And in those groups, what we usually do is sharing grants, call for applications, as you just mentioned. We share, all kinds of opportunities. So to let people know that there are these opportunities which they can seize, because most of the time, what we realize is that people are not even aware that there are such opportunities.
Yep.
And so it's a great platform, because people get the awareness and start to question themselves and to see how they can seize such opportunities. And we also encourage those who benefited from these grants to share their experience, and even to mentor those who would like to apply such opportunities. Yeah, thank you. That's what I can say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. That resonates. I'm also a member of the local Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World in Zimbabwe. So it really resonates. I totally agree that coming together, we can share information, share skills towards getting the grants. Okay, let's go to the next slide so that we can have maybe time for questions. Just finish off.
Okay, there's one comment in the chat from Bruno. Dr. Bruno say, I think supporting each other will be good, and learning from each other about those who are already successful. Only thing is that those who are successful sometimes are afraid to share their expertise. Not all, but most of them are. At least the one I've encountered.
Yeah. That's possible as well, that people might not want to share. But I think our funders, what I've had experience with funders, when they are looking at you as an individual, they're not interested so much in how intelligent you are, because they know we are all scientists, we're intelligent. They are more interested in what you are doing outside of your lab. Engaging with others, mentoring others. For me, I've found that that's what sets me apart. It's not that I'm highly intelligent or that I have all the skills. When I'm competing with people from developed countries, I cannot compete when it comes to skills, lab skills, data analysis skills. I cannot compete with them in that score. But I can set myself apart by mentoring others, presenting. So those that we think are small stuff, the funders actually like that, because they need us. Once they give us their funds, they need us to get more people on board. So that's what I would say. Don't worry, if a person doesn't want to help you, it's their loss. Look on LinkedIn, reach out to people. After this, find some people, make networks, reach out to people outside of your own environment. You'll be surprised. I think I can tell you a lot about the environment that I operate in Zimbabwe. We don't have much of this support except to support each other. And if we need senior supporters, more senior supporters, we actually get them outside of our own universities and outside of our own country. But we still go ahead. What I can only do is I don't do that. I don't do the same thing that I see others do. I help others, I share. Yes.
Thank you,
Someone is saying about you. Can I read it? Because I don't think you would read it. Lopez says that's why she reached out to the lovely person called Luria. We're so passionate about helping others. I agree totally.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. Thank you.
So we'll go to the next slide and just wrap this up so that we can have time for, say, some few questions. So when you are applying for grants, when you are reaching out to these funders, you yourself need to be strategic so that you can meet the funders where they need you. So you need to be realistic, manage your time. In other words, you cannot look at a grant this month and expect to have it ready for submission next month. You need to be several years ahead. If you are going to apply for a Wellcome Trust grant, you need to be on the website a year or two before your actual grant application. You need to understand that funder so that whatever you are writing, you are breathing, eating the funder. You are giving them exactly what they are looking for. Use the information that that funder provides to understand their mission, their expectation, their funding opportunities. If you have no experience, you can start with the small grants. And I like small grants because they give you lots of questions. That helps you to know what you need to tell a funder. So they will ask you questions, and as you answer them, you can then get prepared for the bigger funder. You also need to do some research, even when you have a small grant, so that you build your credibility. They'll say, you got 5,000, what did you do with it? You should already answer the funder. The next funder, you tell them, I got 5,000 from my university, and I did this, I produced this data, and I wrote a paper from it. The funder needs you to publish from their money. So if you have published from another funder, they'll be sure that you publish from their fund, from their funds. You will not always get these grants when you apply. You only get 10 to 30% of all grants that you apply for. But you can learn from your failure. You don't have to be discouraged. As you gain experience, you can afford to become more selective. You can apply for fewer grants because you'll be sure that you will get them. Use your judgment. Listen to advice when you are looking for these opportunities. Build trusted relationships with other scientists as mentors, as advisors, as collaborators, as co-applicants. This makes you stronger. Build relationships with your institutional and professional bodies who are sources of intelligence. Collaborate. You are stronger together. Next slide. In the next slide, I'm just going to show so that we have something hands-on. In the next slide, we have something hands-on to take away. We have said the funders need you to be a success. They need you to publish. They need you to present. So in order for them to get this person, they will look at you as in totality. So the successful application will be the one who has passion, enthusiasm, consistency. How do they measure the passion? They will find you on LinkedIn, they'll find you on ResearchGate, they'll find you at conferences. So if they Google you, they should find information about you. If you write, I'm passionate and enthusiastic, it won't get you a grant. They want demonstrated passion. So if they look up your research trajectory, they should find that you are passionate. You should have a track record. You should have a track record. What did you do with the funding that you got? Did you publish? Did you present? Did you mentor someone? Did you supervise a student? How will they find this track record? It's up to you to share this. You have to share what you are doing. So it's not boasting. You are not boasting when you post on LinkedIn that I have a student that I mentored. I have a grant that I've just won. That is the track record, the footprint that you are putting out there for your next grant application. The place, they will look at the grant management team. They will look at the research output from your university or institution. If it's not out in the public, when you are writing, you have to make sure you are telling the funder that there is a grant management team. I've worked with them before. They've managed my grant very well. There are research teams that produce credible results. If you can name them, if you can demonstrate yourself that you have got robust research out in the public domain, you must do that. They will look at your publications, even presentations fall under this, in the area for which you are applying. If you do not have publications in the area of focus, if it's a new area that you are going into, say it. Tell them, this is a new area that I'm researching, but I'm working with a collaborator from this lab who has done work in this area. They are willing to mentor me, and you should have a letter of support from that person to say, yes, this person is new in the area, but we are willing to help her to do the research, to be trained in methods and all that. In terms of the project, it should be exciting, innovative research questions. How can you get to this? You can start by writing your draft, sharing it with your mentors, sharing it with other scientists, other researchers to get input. But I would like to say, please be careful who you share your project proposal with. Unfortunately, people being people, I've had cases of people who say, I shared my project proposal with a senior person, and in the end, they took the project and applied for funding with it. So yeah, we need to be very careful how much information we are sharing. I normally will share a lot of information once the work is published and it's in the domain, public domain. If it's still a proposal, I will share, but maybe I will not share my methods, my SOPs, things like that. You only share with people that you're actually working with in the project. But when it comes to the actual project proposal that you submit to the funder, they want to see that you have thought about everything. Which methods are you using if it's a lab-based project? Which statistical analysis, which tools, bioinformatic tools are you going to use? They want to know you have thought about it and you can do it. Their need from you, the funder needs you to be successful. They need you to be successful. So that's why they need you to show them all that. In summary, which is the last slide, in summary, next slide. For you to be a successful applicant, you can demonstrate, which is something I've already said, scientific knowledge and technical skills. And I think every researcher has got that. Beyond that, you must have what we call soft skills, effective collaboration, team management skills demonstrated. So how do you demonstrate that? You mentioned, I've worked with my collaborators in the US and we ended up writing a paper. I've worked with collaborators in Germany and we wrote 2 papers. That's how they can tell that you are good at collaborating. The team management skills you can demonstrate by saying, I've got a team with whom I'm working, and you describe them. I've got a DPhil student, I've got a research support staff, and that's how they can tell you've got a team management skill. You should demonstrate that you can budget. This, most likely they can tell from your proposal. Have you thought about everything in your budget? Managing the budget, you can demonstrate by what you have done with prior grants. If it's a small grant, you can still account for what you did with the grant. You can also talk to users. You can talk to your participants, rather. You have ways of going back to your participants. You have thought about it in your proposal. You can say, after my results are out, I'll go back to the participants to engage with them and tell them about the results. So the funder will be interested in that. Will you be able to write in a compelling manner and publish? You demonstrate by telling them what you have already published. Will you be able to build strong relationships with the administrative office? You'll find some funders will say, where did you hear about this call? They want to know, do you have strong relationships with your administrative office? If it doesn't exist, they want to see, do you have networks? How well do you work with your networks? They also want to see how proactive and organized are you. They can tell that as you just describe your journey. So in summary, for me, looking at all these pictures, it looks like a lot that I do. But really, I find that I can achieve all this because I work with other people. I work with women in the OWSD, Zimbabwe. I work with female researchers. I work with my mentor in the US. I work with a mentor in Germany. I work with a mentor at the University of Zimbabwe. So you can never have enough people around you. You just need to manage your time so that you can produce papers, posters, you can go to workshops, you can present, you can also take time away to breathe for your family. But otherwise, as a total successful applicant, your funder needs to understand who you are. They want to know you. They are not interested in just the scientific knowledge and the technical skills, but they want to know you as a person. Thank you very much. I'll leave this time for questions and just engagement and talking back and forth.